Okay, this is my first commission. It's a first of 3 GP9RMs. This is a Kaslo kit, put together fairly nicely, CN7068. So what I'm doing right now is just doing the pre-paint before the airbrushing. The previous one I did the airbrushing before the paint. So this one's a different method. Just doing the rust here on the front. And in the beginning of the video there, you saw me just dabbing on some of that. I think it's like the red primer that they put on these things that shows through after the top coat peels off or fades off. So yeah, just first half of the video is gonna be me painting all the details. I do it fairly roughly because I know that I'm gonna airbrush over it anyway. So not to be too concerned with how this looks in the first stage, and I'll pop up a picture of what I'm doing for both sides. So the engineer's side was pretty dusty in the photo that I could find, and I did reflect that with the airbrushing in the end. Not too much rust on this side, but as you can see on the cab roof there, it's pretty much faded to white, and there's a little bit of rust streaking. As you can see right here, there's a bit of a shine to this model, and also there was some kind of a rough texture to the finish. I don't know if it was dull coated, and neither does the owner, but managed to take care of most of that in the airbrushing. Looks quite good in the end. And I'll pop up the next picture now. So this is the conductor side. It's fairly clean except for the giant rust on the battery boxes, of course. So yeah, you'll see that in the end. So for painting, what I've done is gone over with black to highlight some of the features, such as the brake wheel at the back. Going silver with all the door handles right now. And I had blacked out all of the ditch lights front and rear because they were red previously. So just matching the prototype as closely as I can. Also doing the light bezels front and rear, they were red, and on the prototype they were silver. So here I'm starting to do the cab roof, just doing a wash with water and IPA, a little bit of IPA just to cut surface tension, and then a fairly loose mix of the red and water, very, very light, just dabbing it on. And then I do follow up with white on this as well, just to give you an indication of what I'm doing here. Again, right here, I'm not too concerned with exactness. I'm just trying to get some red down there in different tones, different what do you call it? Different thicknesses, I guess, different hues of red on the cab and on the short hood. I'm gonna come over and paint airbrush black on top of those. Okay, here I've just mixed up a bit of burnt umber and black. I'm just enriching the rust on the battery boxes there. I did the lighter shade first. Now I'm going back with a little bit of an interior darker shade just to add some depth. Same process here. A little bit of IPA and some water, dabbing it on, just getting the white acrylic to flow a little bit better. Again, just kind of messing it on, not following the photographs loosely, but not too particularly. And you'll see that most of this cab roof turns white, and you're probably wondering what the hell I'm doing. But that's the method to my madness. Okay, just coming up to the finish of my painting session with this little guy here. About an hour and a half. Again, not too fussed about how I get the paint on, mostly adding, this is on the undertones underneath the airbrushing. Just doing some highlights, and I'll head downstairs into the basement and put some airbrushing on top of this. Just finishing up with a pencil here. This is a B, probably a 2B or the 4B, can't remember, but 4B is great. You're basically highlighting metal where the paint is worn off. So like the brake wheel, the step edges, the door handles, any kind of like the railings that people grab. Go around the engine and just kind of highlight those areas. Okay, I've headed downstairs. Now I'm in the airbrush room. Got my fume hood going, and first thing I mixed up is a little bit of rubber black, very light mixture, just to put a filter over the entire model. You'll see me now going over the cab roof. I've got to do lots of layers to get it to cover up. Main reason I wanted to do the filter was to get rid of the shininess on the long hood and to try and mask some of those kind of sandy looking things from the previous paint. Yeah, so I'll put up some more, I'll put up the same photographs so you can see where I'm going. So I've taped up some of the windows, but I haven't bothered taping the long hood or around the seat, anything like that. I'm just doing an extremely light coat. That's why I have a very light mixture of rubber black. In case I do mess up and go on top of the CN, it's easy to erase. Again, just a filter on top, and I go close in when I get to the CN, so I do a very narrow brush spray, and then on the roof I kind of relax a little bit, but yeah, just keeping things pretty tight with the airbrush. I don't need to tape except for around the windows, if I'm going to paint around the windows. So right now I'm just softening up all the edges of everything I painted. You do get that little kind of meniscus kind of gathering of paint around the perimeter of wherever you have your brush, even when you do use IPA. So that just gets rid of the hardness, the kind of water stain. The water stains to me look pretty fake, like a raindrop dried on your model. So yeah, I go around with the airbrush and just soften up all the edges, and it kind of blends it nicely in. So rubber black is pretty good for doing soot. This is what I'm doing right now. I'm just doing the soot coming off of both stacks, left or front and rear. And it's a nice blender for the roof as well. Just got to be careful not to wipe out too much of your detail painting that you did on the roof. So now I'll switch over to doing the trucks and the underbody here. This is, again, burnt umber and black, just getting a dark brown. And this is a fairly soupy mixture as well. More like a filter again, not using very thick paints here. Again, doing the underside here, I'm spraying up underneath the walkways and getting the frame itself, trying to get a nice backdrop for what I'm going to do next, which will be more detailed truck painting. Okay, here I'm painting in an up and down motion, and this is to kind of replicate some streaking. Also getting a bit of the dust at the bottom of the long hood where it meets the walkway. There's a lot of gathering of dust on this model, or at least in the prototype photos. A lot of brown stain right at the bottom where the long hood joins the walkway. Now I've switched over to a rust color, getting the leaf springs and some of the bearings, and where the rust has dripped down from the battery box onto the trucks itself. Some of the cylinders are covered in rust. I doubt the cylinders are rusty. It's more like it's dripping down from above. In any case where you go a bit too heavy on the rust, you've always got the black to go back to, or even the muddy mixture of burnt umber and black, just to cover up what you've done. So again, don't worry too much about things. In the couplers here, I did go overboard. Got some on the plow. Again, easy to fix, so don't worry too much. Now I've switched over to buff, a very light mixture again. I'm just going to try and add some highlights to the walkways and the plows, and basically it's a dusty kind of mixture. Put a little bit on the roof, a little bit on the long hood as well. Now this side, the engineer's side, was fairly dusty, so this will get a bit more than the other side. Couldn't get the railings off this guy. Had been glued on, so I had to work around them. Bit of a pain, but everything's possible. I think it turned out okay. Okay, really going over with the dust on the engineer's side now. You'll notice I'm highlighting the doors, in between the doors, not so much the cracks in between the doors. I want to keep those black for when I do my panel lining. I didn't cover the final step, which is powders and oils. I did that up on my desk, and I'll just do a summary video at the end of this to go over those points. Okay, here's the final model. You can see that I've gone through and I've done some streaking with rust. This was raw sienna mostly, followed up by a bit of burnt umber in the middle of the cracks there. Gone around with a bit of the trucks to highlight that, especially on the leaf springs there, and just trying to tie things in a bit more. I can't obviously airbrush lines this fine, so I do switch over and do powders and oils as well. So a little bit on the trucks there, on the plow, and on this side here, just some of that raw sienna followed up by burnt umber. And I'll show you the oils that I'm using, just to give you an idea. Anyway, this is how things turned out. Okay, so that's a final look at it. So this is the first GP9RM of 3 that I got to do. So I'm going to switch over and do some Rapido models. I got 2 of those, one stripey and one the large noodle scheme. Okay, so these are my Bragdon powders that I use. So I mostly use light rust, dark rust, soot, and medium rust, and I also have some black that I've scraped off some pastels myself. These are the 4 majors that I use for Winsor and Newton. So this is the raw sienna, burnt sienna, and raw umber. The burnt sienna gives a bit of a reddish tone, which is really nice for rust. I also have just a brown up there as well, just an umber, dark umber, and lamp black, and I also have white to do white streaking for cement and stuff. Okay, so that's the final look at it. I think it turned out pretty well. I'm going to send this back. Hopefully he likes it. That's it for the first one.